Your mom is so poor she can't even pay attention.
Guys, I have a really controversial hot take. Please don't murder me. Okay, here goes. 3, 2, 1. I think poverty is bad. There, I said it. And South Park has said it a million times. The 4 boys at the center of this story all have certain things that define them. Cartman is a psychopathic monster.
Whatever, I do what I want.
Stan is a sweet boy who believes in doing the right things, as long as someone else is doing it. Kyle actually has the stones to do the right thing.
Dude, okay, he's out.
And Kenny? Well, Kenny is poor. It's his one defining trait. On top of his muffled voice. This poverty makes life very difficult for Kenny. We'll be exploring those difficulties as South Park presents them. But before we get to that, we have to answer the very first question. What causes poverty? Different people have different ideas on what causes poverty, but Matt and Trey are libertarians, so any guesses on what they'd blame it on? Personal choices, of course. Kenny is a child. Being born into poverty is obviously not his fault. But his parents? Not so much. His father is a chronically unemployed alcoholic, and his mother is a dishwasher at Olive Garden. When you're there, you're family. But when you wash the dishes, they'll only pay you minimum wage, which is $14 in Colorado. If you're a good dishwasher, you also get bonus pay in the form of cash, stocks, commissions, and tips. According to Glassdoor, the bonus pay for Olive Garden dishwashers averages around an astonishing, $0. It's not the kind of income that can support a family. And once you throw in a drug habit, it's not the kind of income that can support anything. In The Poor Kid, the episode opens with Kenny's dad trying to fight his eldest son, Kevin.
You think you're man enough to fight me?
Kenny's mom yells at them to sit down, and then she calls both of them drunk, which is curious because Kevin isn't much older than Kenny. Kenny ignores all of the chaos around him and focuses on the TV. There's a show on, White Trash in Trouble. As Kenny watches it, something curious happens.
This white trash home in Colorado seems innocent enough, but the children in this home live in a world of neglect.
It's Kenny's house. His family's on TV. Now, we'll come back to this TV show soon, but let's follow the story for a minute. As Kenny watches the TV, the police ram open the front door and arrest his parents. Turns out they had a meth lab in the backyard.
No more babies! Don't take my babies!
This is a pointless plea. Kenny, his brothers, and sister are taken away and put into foster care. This creates a problem for Cartman. With Kenny gone, there's no one left to mock. So Cartman decides to find out who the new poorest kid in town is.
Well, actually, Eric, it's you.
Cartman preemptively starts making poor jokes because he thinks Kyle is going to start mocking him. There's a lot to unpack here, but first, why is Leanne Cartman poor? Simple. She's a single mom. And this tracks with statistics. In the US, the childhood poverty rate in 2-parent households is 9.5%. The rate is 3 times higher in single-parent households. This stands at 31%. The reason is obvious. 2 incomes are better than 1. So that's what causes poverty, according to South Park at least. Making bad life choices and being a single parent. There are a lot of problems with poverty. The first one we all think is the inability to buy stuff. That is obvious. There is no point in dwelling too much on it. What we're going to focus on are the crushing psychological, societal, and legal consequences of poverty.
Look, Kenny, I always told you that one day being poor was going to catch up with you.
When Cartman discovers that he is now the poorest kid at school, he is ashamed and embarrassed.
My mom is so poor when she heard about the Last Supper, she thought she was running out of food stamps.
His mistake was in tethering his identity to being richer than Kenny. But we all have felt that sting of being broke at some point, I assume. Some of your friends are making plans and they say something like, it's only $800. Only is a very important qualifier. It might not be a lot of money to them, but it could be a small fortune to you. You know that if you spend $800 on floor seats at a concert, you would have to skip every meal for 3 weeks straight. But you can't tell your friends because it's embarrassing. So you make them an excuse to skip the concert. Then you start to hang out with friends in your income range because at least they have hobbies you can afford. But unlike the rest of us, who bear our embarrassment in silence, Cartman decides to do something about it. No, he doesn't YOLO his life savings into Bitcoin and pray. That would be too normal. What he does is tell the police that his mother is running a meth lab too. And because he is very brave, He does it anonymously. Cartman assumes that if he gets rid of his mother, he would be sent to a richer foster home.
Well, guess I'm off to a foster home then. Hawaii is my first choice. Something not exactly on the beach, but maybe just a short walk away.
While Cartman's actions are beyond despicable, they reflect how poverty drives people to perform desperate acts in an attempt to get rich quick. Cartman's own mother had a side gig as, let's call her a professional pleasure distributor. So does Cartman's desperate plan work?
Jesus, this is a long drive. Are we in Hawaii yet?
Hawaii? Your foster home is here. Pretty much the exact opposite of Hawaii.
Cartman ends up in an even worse situation.
What the? Dude, this is like poorer than my old house.
Shame and embarrassment are the biggest psychological consequences of poverty, but that is just the start. There is a whole host of societal consequences on top of this. Throughout the series, Cartman constantly bullies Kenny about his poverty. When they get into a new school after foster care, and Cartman finds a kid who's even poorer than both of them, he breaks into song and dance.
Cause I'm not the poor kid at ski. His mom is so poor she cuts coupons out to be institutionalized. Life can only get better cause I know one simple rule. He's not the poor kid at ski.
Cartman's little song is a slight exaggeration, but represents the way our society belittles poor people in a lot of smaller ways. Bullying green textures, for example, or making a redneck joke, or sweet home Alabama jokes, and making fun of poor Brits for their teeth. Dentists are expensive, man. I made a few of those jokes, and I'm sorry. But these small instances of snooty behavior are small potatoes compared to the greatest crime of all. The tremendous amount of intentional and unintentional social exclusion that the poor experience every day. South Park shows this in Scoots. Kenny wants to go trick-or-treating with his friends on Halloween, but he can't. They're planning to use e-scooters, but you need a phone to unlock one, and Kenny doesn't have a phone. He tries switching friend groups, but all the kids have the same plan, so Kenny is left excluded. He only manages to go trick-or-treating by tearing down South Park's cell tower. The phones die and the e-scooters stop working, so everyone has to go trick-or-treating with Kenny. But real life doesn't have such happy endings. The poor get excluded from everything, while the rich have their fancy little prep schools, elite colleges, and elite jobs. Take the Supreme Court, for example. Every single judge, with the exception of Amy Coney Barrett, either attended Yale or Harvard. Can you get into either of those schools with just pure hard work? Sure, Clarence Thomas did. But it's a lot easier if your parents can afford tutors and prep schools. And also if you have the time to study, which the poor often don't. We see this with Kenny. Because both of his parents are deadbeats, he has to take on parenting responsibilities for his younger sister. He is only 10. Even when the parents are not deadbeats, poor kids are generally expected to take some sort of parental responsibility over their younger siblings. And for a lot of them, these premature parental responsibilities continue and expand once they become adults. Contrast this with some of the world's richest people. Jeff Bezos got $250,000 from his parents to start Amazon. Elon Musk almost definitely got some of his dad's emerald money as a startup capital, even though he still denies it. Bill Gates got his first contract to build operating systems for IBM computers because his mother was on the board. That one contract made him billions. Poor kids don't get opportunities like that. Their parents don't have money or powerful connections to help them get ahead in life. It's often the reverse. They have to support their parents and pretty much every other relative. Certain friends of mine call this the black tax. As soon as they graduate college and get a job, they have to start sending money home to help everybody else. So even though they have climbed out of poverty, they're hovering just barely above it because they can't save as much as they would like and they don't have enough to make any big investments. This is a part of what creates generational wealth gaps. More often than not, wealth begets wealth and poverty begets poverty. The reason we love rags to riches stories is precisely because they're so rare. The rich simply have to avoid being too stupid and they will stay rich. But the poor have to be super geniuses and work like dogs just to climb out of the hole. And of course, our society makes it as difficult as possible for the poor to make it out of things like family separation and a biased legal system. This brings us to the legal consequences of poverty. In this one episode, we can see how the law can be weaponized against poor people. I won't say much about Kenny's parents. They love their kids, but they're too messed up to make good parents. Cartman's mom, however, is a different story. Yes, she coddles and enables Cartman too much, but a lot of parents do that, and the kids don't turn out that bad. Cartman just happens to be a special type of mutant demon. But even then, she's doing her best. Despite that, she is arrested and separated from her son based on one anonymous tip. This perfectly mirrors real life. I found 2 real-life stories that perfectly demonstrate this. A rich person once took 2 kids snorkeling near the Nekalele blowhole in Hawaii. This is a place where a lot of people have literally died from getting sucked in by the water. This fellow took children there. It's the literal definition of child endangerment, but CPS didn't do anything. But a poor mom leaves a 6-year-old with a phone alone for just 40 minutes because of an emergency. Boom! CPS comes and takes the kid away. Poor parents get no benefit of the doubt. One mistake and the kid is gone. The result is a foster system filled with children who shouldn't even be there in the first place. There are mountains of evidence that show that children always have the best outcomes when they're raised by their parents. But the government likes taking kids away from poor people for the smallest mistakes. And because poor people can't afford lawyers, getting those kids returned can take a very, very long time. There's also no guarantee that the child will be better off in foster care. Kenny and Cartman are fostered by a crazy agnostic couple.
As long as you live here, you will be agnostic. David, do you believe in God?
I don't know.
Right!
It gets crazier.
In this house, you will drink only agnostic beverages. Dr. Pepper and Diet Dr. Pepper.
Even the cleaning in the nutjob's house has to be agnostic.
Remember, cleanliness is next to godliness. So make it kind of clean, but not too much. Amanda, more ambiguous on the dusting.
As you can already guess, these people are not going to be very good foster parents. Cartman is shocked when he arrives.
God damn, I gotta sleep in a room with 6 other people?
His foster dad is not having it.
Hey, we do not take the Lord's name in vain in this house, just in case there is one.
And that is the biggest problem with foster care. There are a lot of kids with terrible parents out there, but there isn't nearly enough people who are willing to take those children in. So the people who are willing usually end up taking on multiple kids. The crazy agnostic couple here, for example, have 13 kids. Now, a lot of foster parents are good people. There are some who are in it for the money, but it's not a lot of money, so this betrays low ambition more than anything else. However, the few foster parents who are bad tend to give the whole foster system a bad name, because they can hurt so many kids. Kids who are less than perfect also tend to get bounced around a lot because some foster parents just can't be bothered to deal with their problems. Now look, I did a lot of stupid stuff when I was a kid. For a stint when I was 7 or 8, my mother had locked up all the glassware because I was kinda smashing everything. It wasn't intentional, I just ran around a lot and I had this nasty habit of turning everything into a toy. I just had a lot of energy back then. I don't know where it went, cause now I'm just tired all the time. But apparently that kind of Hulk smash attitude is not always tolerated in foster care. This is a problem because kids are never perfectly behaved. They keep testing boundaries to see what they can get away with. We've all done it. Your parents will tolerate it and try to mold you into a responsible human being because they love you or something like that. But from what I've read online, some foster parents don't take that kind of stress lightly. Break 1 too many glasses or fail to get good grades in school and you'll just get returned to the government like you're some defective object. I can't even begin to imagine how much that kind of rejection hurts. The truly bad ones can do quite a number on a kid. We can see this most acutely with the weatherheads. When Karen is bullied in school, Kenny, as Mysterion, turns up and saves the day. Karen calls him her guardian angel, which doesn't sit well with their agnostic foster parents.
What have we told you about making up angel stories?
But we saw him. Yeah. Stop it, children. We do not speak such certainties in this house.
So just like any rational adult would, they take the kids into the basement, string them up with change, and blast them in the face with Dr. Pepper until they recite the agnostic position.
Did you see an angel?
No, I didn't see an angel.
No, you can't be certain of that. You might have seen one. Are there such things as angels?
Maybe.
Good.
The kids are saved and returned to their parents when Kenny sets up the unhinged agnostics, so they're caught red-handed torturing children. This doesn't always happen in real life, and even when it does, childhood abuse tends to leave very lasting scars. Now, good foster parents do exist. The problem is that there aren't enough of them. There are a lot of kids in the foster system, but there aren't too many good people who volunteer to be foster parents. The kids tend to be stuck with whoever will have them. If that whoever turns out to be bad, they can do a lot of damage. So the obvious solution here is to first stop snatching kids from their parents for stupid reasons. This is what South Park does when it returns the kids to their parents. That is one way to help the poor. But the ever-cynical South Park explores some of the more awful methods that our society uses to help the poor. Once you see just how insane some of the things we do are, you can't unsee it. In The Poor Kid, South Park satirizes a certain genre of entertainment, the trashy family drama kind. The show White Trash in Trouble pretends to be a documentary, but it's really just a medium for people to laugh at all the poor and their problems.
And when you give them a little Pabst Blue Ribbon, they can't help getting arrested.
Poor people being arrested. What a rare occurrence. Hey, Kenny.
Of course, once the poor get arrested, they have to say the show's tagline.
I'm white trash and I'm in trouble.
I'm white trash and I'm in trouble.
I'm white trash and I'm in trouble!
I'm white trash and I'm in trouble.
I'm white trash and I'm in trouble.
Now, we are obviously very civilized people. We don't humiliate poor people just for the lulz like those psychos in South Park. We offer them a couple of coins for their trouble. Then we record them and laugh at them. Bribing poor people to air their dirty laundry on national TV for entertainment is bad enough. But the second type of help is even worse. The people doing it claim they're helping the poor when they're really just doing it for themselves. Can you guess what it is? Well, instead of using poverty for entertainment, some people have gone further and decided to use the poor as accessories, and worse, who are they? Well, let's meet them. It all starts with a Jimmy Fallon roast.
Welcome to South Park University. Please open your shotguns and slap your wives.
I live in South Park and my IQ's so low I got to dig
For it.
Jimmy Fallon is roasting South Park because Mr. Garrison is running for president and saying the most unhinged racist stuff you can imagine. So the people decide to fix their town's image and show the world that they are progressive by getting Whole Foods to open a store in the town. But to show Whole Foods that they are hip, they have to create an arts district downtown.
I'm announcing a plan for Sodo Sopa.
This is where Kenny and his family live.
We'll keep the existing structures, but add brick walkways and some quaint white lights.
It sounds too cruel to be true, but it is.
So you think you keep all the existing structures?
I do. It's part of what gives a revitalized area like this its charm that the hipsters like.
Long story short, they build the entire development around Kenny's house, because that's what the poor are, accessories. To be used when convenient and discarded, Kenny's family protests, but it doesn't work out.
If you people want to turn something into a vibrant arts district, then do it to Randy's house.
My house is nice.
The town council has the same old arguments.
There'll be amazing food and incredible shops right at your doorstep.
And there is amazing food and incredible shops once the project is complete. But the McCormicks can't afford anything in those shops.
We can't afford $10 ice cream, all right?
Kenny's dilapidated house is surrounded by modern glass structures. Kenny and his family are like animals in a zoo, trapped for everyone to watch. Loud music plays all the time. The development makes ads claiming it's helping the local economy, but the McCormicks are the locals, and they aren't seeing a dime. It's an obvious portrayal of gentrification. But it also exposes something else.
These finely appointed residences all feature state-of-the-art finishes and balconies with views of historic Kenny's house.
If you missed it, here's a more explicit version.
Now you can relax in your state-of-the-art deck spa while taking in views of that mixed Sodo Sopa culture.
Shut your damn mouth!
Obviously, poor people fighting with their parents is not culture. It's just people fighting. Rich people fight with their parents. They just happen to have 10-foot walls and 1,000 rooms to hide in. The poor don't have that luxury, so they're watched like animals in a zoo. This was very intentional. It's South Park not only taking a dig at pretentious gentrifiers, but also the lovers of poverty porn. You know these guys. They visit desperately poor corners of the world and use the people for their views. And the sad thing is that Sodo Sopa isn't actually creating any new economic activity. It's just transferring business from one side of town to the other. We can see this in City Walk, which is empty because all the customers have moved to Sodo Sopa.
Take a order, please.
Sodo Sopa was only created to show Whole Foods that South Park was cool. Randy and his gang didn't care if they ruined small businesses or used poor people as props. They just wanted a Whole Foods in their town so they can appear to be as progressive as the snobs they admire so much. So, that is South Park crapping on our entire society that alternates between laughing at the poor people, excluding them, bullying them, and even when they try to help them, we somehow manage to make it about ourselves. So, how can we help the poor people? Well, not doing any of the bad stuff we've just gone through in this video would probably be a good start.